welcome once again to the Game Show Canada. Happy belated Canada Day to all my friends up here in the north, and happy belated July 4th to all my friends down south. And before we get on with this month's episode, I need to address a couple of things. First of all, the pandemic, I think we're just about out of it here. We're down to less than 100 new cases a day here in Alberta. So, with all that in mind, those of you who haven't gotten the vaccine yet, what are you waiting for? You literally have nothing to fear. It's just a little prick. I'll grow up. And the other thing I need to address is last month's episode, one of my crew members, Steve, and I got into a little debate of whether or not baseball is boring. And tempers got flared, and I apologized to him immediately afterwards. And luckily his wounds have healed, and it's all just water under the bridge. Isn't that right, Steve? Such a kidder. Anyway, on with this month's episode of the Game Show Canada, and we're going to be looking back at a true Canadian classic, the Mad Dash. Now, yes, I have reviewed it already in a written entry on the website, but since I'm now doing videos, I figure it's time to revisit it. Plus, we also have the pilot episode to look at as well this time, hosted by the show's creator, Sidney M. Cohen. So, for those of you who haven't been familiarized with the Mad Dash, here's a quick review.
In just a few moments, two lucky couples will start on the road. The thousands of dollars in cash and prizes on the Mad Dash!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is the Mad Dash, where we give thousands of dollars and...
The Mad Dash was a popular game show that ran from 1978 to 1985 on the CTV network. It aired primarily in Canada, but was also available to some northern U.S. markets. And it actually became a top-rated show in several of those markets, which is amazing considering that this was a very low-budget show. The show was taped in Montreal and was hosted by Montreal-based singer and TV personality Pierre Lalonde, with CTV staff announcer Nick Hollenreich serving as announcer. Pierre was a great choice as host. Right from the beginning, it became clear. He was warm, genuine, funny. As a bonus, he was bilingual, which helped with a lot of the French-speaking contestants. And best of all, he loved to see contestants win, even if they weren't winning all that much. The Mad Dash is essentially a living board game. Two teams of two play. One player is the dasher, who will act as the team's pawn, and the other is the roller. The rollers are asked toss-up questions, and the player who buzzes in with the correct answer earns the right to roll a die and move their dasher down the board. The die is a standard one with the numbers 1 through 5, and the 6 replaced with a dollar sign. If a roller rolls a dollar sign, they win a $10 bonus, and they get to roll again. Now, as Pierre often says in his intro, on the board there are squares to move you forward, squares to move you back, squares to win you cash and prizes, and squares that take it back. There are also several spaces that lead to mini-games, such as Shooting Star, Happy Birthday, and the famous Breakaway, which allows contestants to freely run down the board for 1 to 5 seconds, depending on what number their roller rolled. I won't go into the mini-games in too much detail here because I've already covered them on the website, the written entry I did before. So if you would like to find out how they were played, go ahead and check that out. Ultimately, the game all comes down to this. The first team to land on the win space won the game and got to keep all the cash and prizes they picked up along the way. And they would stay on to face a new couple. The losing team would stay on until they lost twice. So this was a simple little game done on a very low budget, but it had its charm, and it proved to be a hit that lasted 7 years. And that's nothing to sneeze at, and it's quite an accomplishment. I'm sure you all agree, a show that lasts 7 years, I'd call that a hit. But of course, before even getting on the air, every show has to start somewhere. So let's go back and take a look at the pilot episode.
In just a few moments, two lucky couples from this studio audience will start on the road to thousands of dollars in cash and prizes on TV's biggest game, The Mad Dash! And now, here's the host of The Mad Dash, Sidney Cohen!
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You are very kind. And thank you to Colin Rake, and welcome to TV's biggest game, The Mad Dash. Very soon now, our two dashers will be racing up and down our big game board, and the first dasher who lands on our win square will take home everything accumulated on their own prize board. Now, there are squares to move you forward and squares to move you back, and squares to win your cash and prizes and squares to take it back, so be careful of those. So,
the pilot episode of The Mad Dash was hosted by the show's creator and producer, Sidney M. Cohen. Sidney got his start in television working for Screen Gems Productions, where he was mentored by Dan Enright. Since that time, Sidney has gone on to a very prolific career in television production. These days, he mostly does travelogue type shows, but at one point in time, he was very successful as a game show producer. On the search for Canada's game shows, Sidney talked at lengths about the difficulties in getting the Mad Dash off the ground. CTV liked the concept and commissioned a pilot, but there wasn't a lot of money to throw around. So Cohen, as a result, had to have set pieces made out of cardboard. The audience was filled with his family and friends, and worst of all, he didn't have the funding to hire a host. So he did it himself for free. It's clear almost immediately that Sidney is very uncomfortable as an on-camera host. But overall, he does okay. And you can definitely see some similarities between his hosting style and Pierre Lalonde's on the series. It's just that Pierre was a lot looser and had a more extroverted personality, whereas Sidney was a little bit stiff and seemed to be more of an introvert. The biggest differences with the pilot to series are cosmetic. A different prize board, a podium instead of a dice table, which was quickly nixed because the die kept rolling off the table, forcing redos. And even the die itself was different, as it was green in color, and the side that would normally have the dollar sign actually said $10. So, I don't know, maybe on the series they were hoping they could give it more than $10. And since this is only the pilot, a lot of the mini-games we saw later in the run weren't here yet, like the Shooting Star and the Happy Birthday game, or the famous Breakaway. On the pilot, it's a little more generic, with spaces like roll forward, roll backward, take a prize, and of course return prizes. The biggest twist in the rules is that once a prize or cash amount was won, it was no longer available for the opposing team, and cash amounts could only be won once. Unlike the series, where cash amounts can be won multiple times, and the prizes could be claimed by both teams. Budget issues, I guess. Sidney had also said that he was told to downplay the Canadian aspect of the show. But he didn't take that advice, and the pilot was filled with a lot of questions about Canadiana. So good on Sidney for giving CTV the middle finger and having some national pride. I can only guess he was giving this advice because CTV was concerned that if the show was too Canadian, American audiences wouldn't buy into it, and it would hurt the syndication chances for the show. Now, if the show had stayed in this format, I think it would have lasted about a year. But adding some variety, tweaking the rules, and bringing in a more capable and experienced host made all the difference. And this little show that could, despite a low budget, somehow lasted 7 years. Everyone likes an underdog, I guess. And it's just proof that you don't need to give away $1 million every day to make a good game show. The Mad Dash to date has been Sydney's most successful show, and it's also been credited as the first Canadian game show to have foreign versions. The most successful, the Polish version called Duety Dumety, or Duos to the Finish Line when translated in English, which ran for 2 years. As I said, Sydney's career has continued, as he still works as a producer, mostly doing travelogue type shows, and his latest project is a current affairs show produced for TV Ontario called The Agenda. Pierre Lalonde's career would include several other shows beyond the Mad Dash, mostly in French. One of them was the localized French-speaking version of Chain Reaction called Action Reaction, taped on the same set as the 80s revival of Chain Reaction. In 2011, he would receive the Quebec Medal of Honor of the National Assembly for his artistic contributions. Sadly, we lost Pierre in 2016 after a lengthy battle with Parkinson's disease. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Game Show Canada. On behalf of all of us, this is Marc Power saying, long may your big jib draw. Become a Patreon backer at www.patreon.com/GameShowGumbo or check out our website at www.gameshowgarbage.com. This has been an impressive production.